The 12 Annihilator dreadnoughts moved through space like harbingers of death. Each vessel was ancient, built during the early days of the Vorath Empire when conquest meant complete destruction. The planet-killer weapons they carried had been used only twice in 10,000 years. Both times, entire worlds had been reduced to lifeless rocks. High Executor Ralmoth commanded the fleet personally. He had been overruled by Empress Dalveth, ordered to abandon the Earth offensive. But some orders were meant to be ignored. The Empire was crumbling because of humanity. If he could eliminate the source of the rebellion, order would be restored. Even if it cost him his life. 40 hours to Earth, his navigation officer reported. All weapon systems are charging. Planet killers will be ready to fire upon arrival. Ralmoth nodded. The humans had proven to be clever, resourceful, dangerously effective. But they could not stop this. No species in the galaxy had technology capable of defending against planet-killer weapons. The humans would die knowing they had doomed themselves by their defiance. On Earth, Commander Jihoon convened an emergency council. Representatives from 37 species attended via quantum link. Humans, Kelos, Drathi, Solvari, and dozens more who had joined the rebellion. They gathered not just as allies, but as friends united against tyranny. Councillor Somin spoke first, her voice tired but determined. Perhaps we should negotiate. Offer Ralmoth terms. Pull back our forces in exchange for Earth's safety. They're bringing planet killers, Dr. Heejin said quietly. They're not coming to negotiate. They're coming to make an example of us that will terrify the galaxy for another 10,000 years. If we surrender, if we show weakness now, every species that rose up because of us will be crushed. Rebel leader Tharn's image appeared on the holographic display. The massive Kelos warrior looked grim. The humans are right. We cannot negotiate with those who bring genocide weapons. We stand together or we fall together. Then we fight, Admiral Tajin said. Yuna, tell them about Project Revelation. Engineer Yuna stepped forward. For the past 2 years, she had been leading humanity's most secret research program, a project so classified that even most of Earth's government didn't know about it. She activated a holographic display showing complex technical schematics. The Vorath Empire uses standardized technology across all their systems, Yuna explained. Every ship, every weapon, every installation uses the same power matrices. It's efficient, but it creates a vulnerability. We've developed something we call the quantum disruptor. She zoomed in on a device that looked deceptively simple. This device can disable any technology that uses Vorath standard power matrices. It creates a quantum field that makes their power systems impossible to sustain. Ships go dark. Weapons stop functioning. Even life support fails. The implications were staggering. Scientist Jawan added more details. We've been deploying disruptor satellites throughout human space for months, disguised as communication relays. They're undetectable to Vorath sensors. When activated, they create an overlapping field that covers the entire solar system. Every Vorath ship in range will be disabled, Yuna continued, including the Annihilator fleet. Their planet killers will be useless. But there's a catch. We can only use this once. After the Vorath see the disruptor in action, they'll change their technology. They'll adapt. This is a one-time weapon. Commander Jihoon looked around the council. That's why we need to make this count. We disable the Annihilator fleet, but we don't destroy it. Instead, we show the entire galaxy what we're capable of. We show that humanity could have destroyed the Vorath, but chose mercy instead. Mercy? Captain Minho asked. After they tried to genocide us? Mercy, Jihoon confirmed. Because we're not fighting to become the next empire. We're fighting for freedom. If we destroy the Annihilator fleet, we're just another conqueror. If we disable it and let them return home, we prove we're different. The debate continued for hours. Some argued for destroying the Vorath while they had the chance. Others worried about the message it would send. But eventually consensus was reached. They would disable the Annihilator fleet, send a message to the galaxy, and offer the Vorath one final chance for peace. Captain Minho's reconnaissance ships tracked the approaching dreadnoughts. His quantum link to Earth command was open constantly, providing real-time updates. They're 30 hours out, still approaching at maximum speed. No indication they suspect anything. Lieutenant Daehyun was coordinating the defensive preparations. Every human ship in the solar system was positioned carefully. Not to fight, but to bear witness. He wanted the Vorath to see that humanity could have destroyed them, but chose not to. The hours crawled by. People across Earth and its colonies watched the news, knowing the Annihilator fleet was coming. Some were afraid. Others were defiant. All of them trusted Commander Jihoon and his team. They had been saved before. They would be saved again. The Annihilator fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of Earth's solar system. 12 massive dreadnoughts, each bristling with weapons. High Executor Ralmoth opened a communication channel to Earth. Humans. His voice echoed across every frequency. You cannot stop what is coming. Your species ends today. Your worlds will burn. The galaxy will remember Earth as the price of defiance. Commander Jihoon responded calmly. Ralmoth, you've made a mistake. You came here believing you were unstoppable. You're about to learn otherwise. Empty words from a dying species, Ralmoth sneered. Activate planet killers. Target Earth. The 12 dreadnoughts began powering up their terrible weapons. Energy readings spiked as the planet killers charged. Every human in the solar system held their breath. Then Engineer Yuna activated the quantum disruptor network. The effect was instantaneous and total. Every satellite disguised as a communication relay came online simultaneously, creating an overlapping quantum field that covered billions of kilometers. The field interfered with Vorath power matrices on a fundamental level, making them unable to sustain any technological function. The 12 dreadnoughts went dark. Their engines shut down. Their weapons powered off. Their shields collapsed. Life support systems failed. In seconds, the most feared weapons in the galaxy were reduced to floating metal coffins. Ralmoth stared at his control panels in disbelief as every system failed. Emergency backup systems tried to activate and immediately shut down. The quantum field was affecting everything, even redundant systems. His ship was completely dead. Captain Seokjin's carrier group moved forward, surrounding the helpless dreadnoughts. Human ships approached close enough that the Vorath crews looking through emergency viewports could see them clearly. Close enough that if humanity wanted to destroy them, it would be trivially easy. But no weapons fired. Instead, Commander Jihoon's voice filled the void. High Executor Ralmoth, your fleet is disabled. Your planet killers are useless. We could destroy you right now. 12 dead ships. Millions of Vorath warriors gone. It would be justice for what you tried to do to Earth. Ralmoth said nothing, unable to respond with his communications offline. Jihoon continued, his words broadcast across every channel in the galaxy. But we're not going to destroy you. Because humanity didn't fight this war for revenge. We fought for the right to exist as a free species. We fought so that no one, ever again, has to submit to tyranny or face extinction. Human engineering ships approached the dreadnoughts. General Nari led teams of technicians who boarded the disabled vessels, providing emergency life support and basic power. They kept the Vorath crews alive while making modifications to the ship's systems. Dr. Hyejin explained the modifications to the Vorath crews. We're installing transmitters that cannot be removed without destroying your ships. These transmitters will tell us where your planet killers are at all times. If you ever try to use these weapons again, we'll disable them. We're not taking away your ability to defend yourselves. We're taking away your ability to commit genocide. Over the next day, the Annihilator fleet was reactivated with the new limitations in place. The Vorath crews found themselves in the surreal situation of being saved by the species they had tried to exterminate. Captain Seokjin's fleet escorted the disabled dreadnoughts to the edge of Vorath space and reactivated their full systems. Ralmoth regained control of his ship, expecting the humans to demand his surrender. Instead, Ambassador Youngho appeared on his communication screen. Beside him stood rebel leader Tharn and representatives from 20 other species. We're not here to conquer, Youngho said simply. We're here to offer terms. Real terms. The kind you should have offered us instead of ultimatums and genocide threats. The terms were presented to Empress Dalveth directly. She sat upon her throne, surrounded by the ruins of her crumbling empire, and listened to humans dictate conditions for peace. All subjugated species that wished for independence would be released immediately. No retaliation, no punishment. They would be free. All planet killer weapons would be dismantled under neutral observation. The galaxy had seen enough genocide. Borders would open for free trade and travel. Species would interact as equals, not as masters and servants. The Vorath would never again threaten a sovereign species with extinction. Any attempt to do so would result in humanity using the quantum disruptor against them. Ambassador Young-ho traveled aboard the stealth ship Shadowrunner, heading deep into Vorath-controlled space. His mission was dangerous but necessary. Commander Jihoon had been right. Humanity couldn't win this war alone. They needed allies among the conquered species. The Kelos were his first target. They had been subjugated by the Vorath 800 years ago, but their spirit had never been broken. Kelos resistance fighters had been sabotaging Vorath operations for centuries, always careful, always hidden. Now for the first time they had hope. Young-ho met with rebel leader Tharn in a secret location, an abandoned mining facility on a moon far from Vorath patrols. Tharn was massive, nearly 4 meters tall with 4 arms and skin like rock. His people had been warriors before the Vorath came. They remembered freedom. "Why should we trust humans?" Tharn asked. His voice was deep, rumbling like an earthquake. "You want us to fight your war?" "No," Young-ho replied calmly. "We want to fight together. The Vorath came to Earth demanding our surrender. We refused. We've been fighting them for months now and we're winning. But we know we can't free the galaxy alone. We need partners, not servants." He showed Tharn the battle footage from New Jeju and New Busan. The Kelos leader watched in silence as human weapons tore through Vorath ships, as human marines defeated Vorath warriors. When the footage ended, Tharn's eyes were bright with emotion. "The Vorath can be beaten," he whispered. "After 800 years, I'm seeing them lose." "They can be beaten," Young-ho confirmed. "And we'll help you do it. We'll provide weapons, training, intelligence. We'll coordinate our attacks with yours. Together, we can break their empire." Tharn looked at the human for a long moment. Then he extended one of his massive hands. "The Kelos will fight, not for Earth, not for humanity, but for ourselves, with humanity beside us." The handshake sealed an alliance that would change the galaxy. While Young-ho made diplomatic progress, Commander Unji was proving that human special forces could strike anywhere. She led a team of 12 Marines on a raid against a major Vorath supply depot in the Drax system. The depot supplied weapons and food to 50 Vorath fleets. It was supposed to be impregnable. Unji's team infiltrated using captured Vorath identification codes that scientist Jiwon had decrypted. They moved through the facility like ghosts, their powered armor operating in stealth mode that defeated Vorath sensors. They planted explosives at key structural points, then disappeared before anyone realized they had been there. The explosion destroyed the entire depot and 17 supply ships. Thousands of Vorath soldiers watched their supplies burn, unable to do anything. More importantly, millions of conquered beings watched the footage and realized something profound. Nowhere was safe from human retaliation. The psychological impact was devastating to Vorath morale. Their empire had always seemed untouchable. Now human strike teams could appear anywhere, destroy anything, and vanish. The fear that the Vorath had used to control the galaxy was turning against them. Pilot Sunwoo became a legend during the Battle of the Outer Rim. His squadron of 12 fighters encountered a Vorath carrier and its escort of 60 fighters. The odds were terrible, but Sunwoo had learned from months of combat what worked against Vorath tactics. "They fly in rigid formations," he told his pilots over the quantum link. "They never break pattern. We use that against them." The human fighters split into pairs, weaving between Vorath vessels in patterns that seemed random, but were perfectly calculated. The Vorath fighters tried to maintain their formation while engaging, which limited their ability to maneuver. Sunwoo's AI targeting system identified the lead Vorath fighter. Take out the leader and the formation would collapse. His railgun fired 3 times, each shot perfectly placed. The lead Vorath fighter exploded. The formation did exactly what Sunwoo predicted. It fell apart. Individual Vorath pilots tried to engage, but they weren't trained for chaotic dogfights. They were trained for coordinated formation combat. Human fighters were trained for chaos. Each pilot was an expert in individual combat, capable of making split-second decisions. They tore through the confused Vorath fighters like predators among prey. Then Sunwoo did something insane. He flew straight at the Vorath carrier, dodging defensive fire, and launched a single precision missile. It struck the carrier's main reactor. The explosion tore the massive ship apart from the inside. All 12 human fighters survived. The Vorath lost everything. The footage spread across the galactic network within hours. Young beings on 100 conquered worlds watched a human pilot destroy a carrier with 12 fighters. Impossible became possible. Fear became courage. The Kelos rebellion began 2 days after Young-ho's meeting with Tharn. Kelos fighters attacked Vorath military bases across 16 star systems simultaneously. They used the weapons Earth had provided: railguns, kinetic mines, explosives. Simple, effective, devastating. The Vorath had to divert 3 fleets to suppress the uprising. 3 fleets that were supposed to be attacking Earth. Then the Drathi rose up, an aquatic species that controlled a crucial trade route. They began sinking Vorath ships that passed through their systems. Hundreds of supply vessels trapped in water worlds unable to escape. The Sulvari followed. Then the Korax, then the Velen. Species after species that had suffered under Vorath rule for centuries saw their chance and took it. Within a week, 17 rebellions were burning across the Empire. Empress Dalveth stood before her war council in fury and growing fear. The situation reports were catastrophic. Her empire, stable for 10 millennia, was fracturing, and all because one primitive species had dared to say no. "Pull back all fleets," she ordered. "End the Earth offensive. We must secure the core systems before the entire empire collapses." High Executor Ralmoth protested. "If we retreat from Earth, we show weakness. Every conquered species will rebel." "They're already rebelling," Dalveth shouted, "because they saw Earth defeat us. Every day we continue this war. We lose more ships, more warriors, more territory. The humans have turned our strength against us." The order went out across the Empire. All Vorath forces were to withdraw from human space and return to suppress rebellions. The siege of Earth was officially over. Admiral Tajin watched the Vorath fleets leave and immediately gave new orders. "We don't let them recover. Every rebel system gets human support. Every Vorath supply line gets hit. We keep the pressure on until the Empire breaks completely." Human ships appeared in rebel systems, bringing not just weapons but medical supplies, food, and engineering support. Captain Seokjin's carrier group helped liberate 3 Kelos worlds, coordinating with Tharn's ground forces. The combined human-Kelos forces were unstoppable. General Nari trained rebel ground troops, teaching them human combat tactics. The Drathi learned guerrilla warfare. The Sulvari learned sabotage techniques. The Korax learned how to coordinate ambushes. Each species adapted human methods to their own abilities. Engineer Yuna's factories couldn't build weapons fast enough. She designed simpler versions that rebel species could manufacture themselves using local materials. Knowledge spread faster than the Vorath could stop it. Every conquered species learned they could fight back. Dr. Hyejin worked with alien scientists, sharing human technology and learning from other species. The knowledge exchange created innovations no single species could have developed alone. New weapons, better shields, faster communications. The alliance grew stronger every day. Within 3 months, 47 species were in active rebellion. The Vorath Empire controlled less than half the territory it had held before challenging Earth. Empress Dalveth faced a terrifying reality. Her empire was dying. She sent a message to Commander Jihoon. Not an ultimatum this time, an inquiry. "What do you want, human? What will it take for you to stop?" Jihoon's response was simple: freedom. Not just for humanity, for everyone. But even as victories mounted, High Executor Ralmoth was planning something desperate. He had convinced a faction of the Vorath military to support him in a final, catastrophic gambit. If the Empire was going to fall, he would make sure humanity burned with it. Deep in Vorath space, 12 dreadnoughts were being equipped with planet-killer weapons. Ancient, terrible devices that could render worlds lifeless. The Annihilator fleet was being prepared for one final mission: destroy Earth and every human colony, no matter the cost. Captain Minho's reconnaissance ships detected the mobilization, but by the time the warning reached Earth, the Annihilator fleet was already underway. 12 massive dreadnoughts, each carrying enough firepower to exterminate all life on a planet. They were headed for Earth at maximum speed. Commander Jihoon received the report in his command center. For the first time since the war began, he felt true fear. They had defeated conventional Vorath forces, but planet killers. If those weapons reached Earth, nothing could stop them. No defense would matter. Humanity would be erased. "How long until they arrive?" he asked quietly. 48 hours, Admiral Tajin replied. "Maybe less." Jihoon looked at his command staff: Dr. Hyejin, Engineer Yuna, Scientist Jiwon, Captain Seokjin, General Nari, Lieutenant Daehyun. All of them had fought so hard, come so far, and now they faced extinction anyway. "We're not done yet," Jihoon said firmly. "We've surprised them before. We'll do it again. Yuna, is Project Revelation ready? The stars above Earth had never seemed so threatening. Commander Jihoon stood in the observation deck of Orbital Station 7, watching the horizon of his home planet curve gently against the black void. He had served in the defense fleet for 20 years, but nothing had prepared him for this moment. 300 warships hung in space around Earth's solar system. They were not human ships. Each vessel stretched for kilometers, dark metal hulls that absorbed light rather than reflected it. These were Vorath Empire warships, and they had arrived 6 hours ago without warning. Captain Minho had been the first to spot them. His reconnaissance ship, the Silent Arrow, was on routine patrol near the outer planets when his sensors detected the massive energy signatures. He had sent the alert immediately, his voice tight with controlled fear. By the time Jihoon reached the command center, the alien fleet had already taken up strategic positions around every human colony in the solar system. The communication had come an hour later. High Executor Ralmoth appeared on every screen across Earth and its colonies. He was tall, with gray skin that seemed to shimmer like metal. His eyes were completely black, showing no emotion as he delivered his message. The Vorath Empire had ruled the galaxy for 10,000 years. They had conquered 847 species. Now it was humanity's turn to submit. The terms were simple and brutal. Humanity had 72 hours to surrender. They would dismantle all military forces. They would abandon their 12 colony worlds and return to Earth. They would serve the Empire as workers, miners, and laborers. Their technology would belong to the Vorath. Their children would be educated in Vorath schools, learning to be loyal subjects of the Empire. Refusal meant complete destruction. No negotiations. No compromise. Dr. Hyejian arrived at the emergency council meeting with her tablet full of research. She was Earth's leading expert on alien species, though until today actual contact with aliens had been limited to distant observations. She spread her data across the holographic display for everyone to see. The Vorath have never failed to conquer, she said quietly. I've analyzed every record we could find in the galactic databases. 847 species over 10 millennia. Some resisted. All of them fell. The Vorath strategy is always the same. They arrive with overwhelming force. They give an ultimatum. Species either submit immediately or fight and lose everything. Counselor Soman, Earth's senior diplomatic representative, looked pale. She had spent her career preparing for peaceful first contact with alien life. This was a nightmare. We must negotiate, she said. There has to be a middle ground. We can offer them trade, resources, anything but total surrender. They don't negotiate, Dr. Hyejian replied. That's the point. The Vorath maintain their empire through fear. They've grown so powerful that no one dares to resist anymore. The last species that fought back was destroyed 300 years ago. Their homeworld is still a dead rock, kept as a warning to others. Commander Jihoon listened to the debate around the table. Admirals argued for immediate military response. Politicians urged caution. Scientists proposed desperate last-minute technological solutions. But Jihoon knew something they didn't. He had been preparing for this day since he joined the defense fleet. We're not going to negotiate, he said quietly. The room fell silent. And we're not going to surrender. Admiral Tajan, who commanded Earth's defense network, nodded slowly. He was one of the few who knew the full truth. For the past 100 years, since humanity had first detected signs of the Vorath Empire's existence, Earth's government had been preparing in secret. While they built colonies and explored new worlds, they had also been building defenses. Incredible defenses. The Vorath think we're primitives, Admiral Tajan said. They see a species that only left their home world 200 years ago. They assume we're like all the others they've conquered, weak, unprepared, frightened. Aren't we? Asked one of the junior counselors. Jihoon turned to face the room. Humanity has been studying the Vorath for decades. We've analyzed every battle they've ever fought. We know their tactics, their weapons, their weaknesses, and we've been building countermeasures. Every colony has hidden defenses. Every human ship has capabilities the Vorath don't know about. Earth itself has more firepower than any world in known space. Dr. Hyejian looked shocked. You've been planning for war? For decades? We've been planning to survive, Jihoon corrected. When we discovered the Vorath Empire, we realized the truth. The galaxy is not a peaceful place. It's ruled by force. So we made a choice. We would never start a fight, but if one came to us, we would be ready. Engineer Yuna entered the room carrying a secure data chip. She was young but brilliant. the lead designer of humanity's experimental weapons programs that had been kept secret even from most of Earth's government. She loaded the chip into the holographic display, and suddenly the room was full of technical specifications. Kinetic weapons, she explained. The Vorath use energy shields. Every species they've conquered used energy weapons. Lasers, plasma, particle beams. The Vorath shields stop all of them. But shields are made of electromagnetic fields. They can't stop solid matter moving at high velocity. The display showed railguns, massive magnetic accelerators that could fire projectiles at 15% of light speed. It showed kinetic mines, invisible to most sensors until they exploded. It showed weapons that humanity had developed specifically to fight an enemy like the Vorath. Our ancestors fought wars with bullets and bombs. Yuna continued. While the galaxy moved to energy weapons, we remembered the old lessons. Kinetic force is simple, effective, and the Vorath have no defense against it. Counselor Soman stood up, her hands shaking. You're talking about fighting them. 300 warships. The most powerful empire in the galaxy. This is madness, it's survival, Ji-hoon said firmly. If we surrender, humanity ceases to exist as a free species. Our children will grow up as slaves. Our culture will be erased. Our future will belong to the Vorath. I didn't join the defense fleet to hand Earth over to conquerors. The room erupted in argument. Some supported Ji-hoon. Others called him insane. Captain Minho, who had been silent until now, finally spoke up. I've seen their ships. They're huge, powerful. But Commander Ji-hoon is right. We can't surrender. I'd rather die fighting than live as a slave. The debate continued for hours. Finally, a vote was called. It was close, but the decision was made. Earth would refuse the Vorath ultimatum. High Executor Ralmoth received Earth's response exactly 72 hours after his ultimatum. It was a single word, broadcast across all frequencies in every language Earth had ever spoken. No. For several seconds, the Vorath commander simply stared at the message. In his entire career, spanning 3 centuries, no species had ever refused. He checked the translation multiple times, certain there must be an error. But there was no error. Humanity had chosen to fight. Ralmoth's black eyes narrowed. These creatures did not understand what they had done. They would learn. The Vorath Empire did not tolerate defiance. He would make an example of humanity that would echo across the galaxy for another 10,000 years. He gave the order to prepare for attack. But first they would crush one of humanity's outer colonies. Let these foolish creatures watch their people die before Earth itself burned. Commander Ji-hoon watched the Vorath fleet begin to move. His heart was pounding, but his hands were steady. Lieutenant Daehyun stood beside him at the tactical console, monitoring the enemy movements. They're heading for New Jeju, Daehyun reported. The colony in the Tau Ceti system. Good, Ji-hoon said quietly. That's where we want them. The war for humanity's survival had begun. War Master Kethzul commanded the Vorath strike fleet with absolute confidence. He had conquered 17 worlds in his military career. This would be his 18th. The human colony called New Jeju would fall in less than an hour, and then these foolish creatures would understand the price of defiance. His fleet of 60 warships dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Tau Ceti system. Long-range sensors immediately located the colony world, a beautiful blue planet orbiting a yellow sun. 12 million humans lived there, farming and mining, completely unaware of their approaching doom. No defensive satellites detected, reported his tactical officer. No military ships in orbit. The colony appears undefended, War Master. Kethzul was not surprised. Young species never expected attack. They built their colonies in hope and ignorance, believing the galaxy was safe. The Vorath had taught many species this hard lesson. Today humanity would learn it too. Begin standard approach, Kethzul ordered. Formation pattern 7. Activate shields at 70%. These primitives don't have weapons that can threaten us, but we follow protocol. The Vorath fleet moved forward in perfect formation. They had used this same attack pattern for 3,000 years. It had never failed. Ships arranged in a spherical formation, shields overlapping for maximum protection, heavy warships in front, lighter vessels behind. It was beautiful, efficient, and unstoppable. On New Jeju, alarms were ringing across every city and settlement. But the colonists were not panicking. They were moving with practiced efficiency to underground shelters. Every person knew exactly where to go. They had drilled for this scenario hundreds of times. Lieutenant Daehyun watched the Vorath fleet approach from his command post, buried deep beneath New Jeju's northern continent. His tactical display showed every enemy ship, their positions, their shield strengths, their weapon status. Human sensors were far more sophisticated than the Vorath realized. "They're using formation pattern 7, Daehyun reported to Commander Ji-hoon on the secure quantum link. The quantum communication was instantaneous across any distance, impossible to jam or intercept. Another technology humanity had developed that the Vorath didn't know about. "Perfect," Ji-hoon responded from Earth. "Proceed with Defensive Plan Alpha." Daehyun smiled grimly. The Vorath were about to learn that humanity had very good teachers. Their teachers were history. Every war Earth had ever fought. Every battle, every tactical innovation from thousands of years of human conflict. The Vorath had been fighting the same way for millennia. Humanity never stopped learning. "Activate railgun platforms," Daehyun ordered. Across the asteroid belt of the Tau Ceti system, hundreds of hidden platforms came to life. They had been built over the past 5 years, disguised as mining stations and communication relays. Each platform contained a massive railgun capable of firing solid projectiles at incredible speeds. The Vorath fleet was now within range. Kethzul watched his forward screens with satisfaction. The human colony grew larger with each passing moment. No weapons fired at his ships. No defenses activated. This would be easier than he thought. Then everything changed. The first projectile hit the lead Vorath warship at 15% light speed. The kinetic energy was devastating. The Vorath's energy shields, designed to deflect lasers and plasma, did absolutely nothing against solid matter. The projectile punched through the shield as if it wasn't there, tore through the ship's hull and exploded out the other side. The warship broke in half, its interior exposed to vacuum. 3,000 Vorath crew died instantly. Before Kethzul could even process what had happened, 6 more ships were hit. Then 12. The railgun platforms fired in coordinated patterns, their AI targeting systems calculating trajectories with perfect accuracy. Each projectile was a tungsten carbide rod weighing several tons, accelerated to impossible speeds. "Evasive maneuvers," Kethzul screamed. But his ships were in formation pattern 7, designed for maximum shield coverage, not mobility. They were too close together, too predictable in their movements. Engineer Yuna's kinetic mines activated next. These weapons had been deployed throughout the system months ago, small devices that drifted silently like space debris. They were nearly invisible to Vorath sensors. Now they came to life, their tiny engines pushing them toward the enemy fleet at high speed. Each mine carried a simple explosive charge. No sophisticated technology, just raw kinetic force. They struck the Vorath ships from dozens of angles simultaneously, targeting engine sections and weapon systems. Explosions rippled across the enemy formation. "Shields are ineffective," the Vorath tactical officer reported in shock. "Weapons incoming are solid matter, not energy. Our defenses can't stop them." Kethzul felt something he had not experienced in over a century: fear. His fleet was being torn apart by primitive kinetic weapons, weapons the Vorath had abandoned thousands of years ago as obsolete. How could this be happening? "Return fire," he commanded. "Destroy those platforms." The Vorath warships unleashed their plasma cannons, powerful energy weapons that could vaporize cities. But the railgun platforms were scattered across millions of kilometers of space, hidden among asteroids and debris. The few platforms the Vorath managed to hit were already empty, their automated systems having fired all ammunition and self-destructed. Lieutenant Daehyun watched the battle with professional satisfaction. The Vorath were doing exactly what human strategists had predicted. They were powerful but predictable. 10,000 years of unchallenged dominance had made them arrogant. They had stopped innovating, stopped adapting. They relied on the same tactics that had worked for millennia, but humanity had studied those tactics. Human military historians had analyzed every recorded Vorath battle. They knew exactly how the enemy would respond to each situation. The Vorath were fighting according to doctrine. Humans were fighting according to creativity. "Deploy fighter squadrons," Daehyun ordered. Small human craft emerged from hidden bases on New Jeju's moons. These weren't massive warships. They were fighters, quick and agile, carrying precision missiles and railgun cannons. The Vorath had never developed fighter craft. Their warships were self-sufficient, needing no support vessels. Another doctrine that humanity exploited. The fighters swarmed the Vorath fleet like angry insects, too small and fast for the massive enemy ships to target effectively. They aimed for weak points, engine exhausts, and weapon ports, places where armor was thinner. Each fighter was piloted by humans who had trained their entire lives for this moment. 16 minutes after the battle began, Kethzul made the most shameful decision of his career. "Retreat," he commanded. "All ships withdraw immediately." The surviving Vorath warships turned and fled, activating their faster-than-light drives as quickly as possible. Of the 60 warships that had attacked New Jeju, only 13 escaped. 47 had been destroyed or too damaged to retreat. Tens of thousands of Vorath warriors were dead. On New Jeju, the colonists emerged from their shelters and looked up at the sky. Debris from destroyed Vorath ships burned in the atmosphere like shooting stars. They had won. 12 million civilians, defended by hidden weapons and a handful of fighters, had defeated the mighty Vorath Empire. Admiral Tajin received Lieutenant Daehyun's report aboard Earth's orbital command station. He allowed himself a small smile. The victory at New Jeju was just the beginning. Every human colony had similar defenses. Earth itself had weapons that would make the New Jeju platforms look like toys. "Broadcast the battle footage," Tajin ordered. "I want every human colony, every ship, every station to see what happened today. And I want it sent to the Galactic Network. Let everyone in the galaxy see that the Vorath can bleed." The video spread across human space within hours. People watched in awe and pride as their defenses destroyed the invincible Vorath fleet. For the first time since the ultimatum, hope burned bright. They could fight. They could win, but the video also spread beyond human space. Other species, those conquered and enslaved by the Vorath, watched it too. In secret rooms and hidden networks, they saw something they hadn't seen in millennia: the Vorath losing a battle. High Executor Ralmoth watched the New Jeju footage 3 times. Each viewing made his rage grow hotter. This was impossible, unacceptable. These primitive creatures had humiliated the Empire. He sent an immediate message to the Vorath homeworld, to Empress Dalveth herself. The message was simple: send reinforcements. 5,000 warships, the largest fleet assembled in 1,000 years. Humanity would be crushed. Every human world would burn. Every human colony would be reduced to ash. The Empire would not tolerate defiance. Even if it took their entire military might, humanity would be made an example. A warning to the galaxy that would last for another 10,000 years. Commander Jihoon received intelligence reports about the Vorath's response. 5,000 ships were being mobilized, an overwhelming force headed for Earth. He gathered his command staff and looked at each officer in turn. "They're coming with everything they have," he said quietly. "But we've just proven something important. The Vorath can be beaten. They're powerful, but they're not invincible. Now we show them what humanity can really do." Captain Minho nodded. "We bloodied them. Now we finish them. The first battle was won, but the real war was just beginning." Empress Dalveth sat upon her throne in the heart of the Vorath homeworld. She was ancient, having ruled the Empire for 2,000 years. In all that time, no species had dared to resist her might, until now. The holographic display before her showed the battle at New Jeju playing on repeat. 47 warships destroyed, thousands of her warriors dead, defeated by a species that had barely learned to travel between stars. It was humiliating. Worse, it was dangerous. "The other species are watching," her chief advisor warned. "Already we detect increased communication among the conquered worlds. They see weakness." "Then we will demonstrate strength," Dalveth said coldly. "Mobilize 5,000 warships. I will personally oversee this operation. Humanity will be erased from the galaxy. Their homeworld will be left as a dead monument to our power." The largest Vorath fleet in 1,000 years began to assemble. Ships were pulled from every corner of the Empire. This was not a punitive expedition anymore. This was total war. Dr. Hijin worked in her laboratory aboard Earth's orbital research station, analyzing data from the New Jeju battle. What she was discovering both excited and frightened her. She called an immediate meeting with Commander Jihoon and Admiral Taijin. "The Vorath haven't innovated in 3,000 years, she explained, pulling up comparison charts. "Look at their weapons, their shields, their ship designs. They're identical to vessels from millennia ago. The Empire has grown so powerful, so dominant that they stopped improving. Why develop new technology when the old technology always wins? Admiral Tajin leaned forward. And humanity? We've been advancing constantly, Yejin said. 200 years ago, we could barely reach our own moon. Now we have quantum communication, AI-assisted targeting, faster than light travel. We innovate because we have to. We're young, hungry, always pushing forward. So they're stagnant, Jihoon said. And we're evolving. Exactly. The Vorath rely on their numbers and their reputation, but strip away the fear. And they're just using old tactics with old weapons. They've forgotten how to adapt because they've never needed to. This information changed everything. Jihoon ordered the activation of Protocol Defiant, humanity's full defensive strategy. Every colony, every station, every ship would be coordinated in a way the galaxy had never seen. Scientist Jiwan's quantum communication network made it possible. Every human military unit could communicate instantly across light years. No delay, no signal jamming. The Vorath still used radio transmissions that took time to travel. By the time a Vorath commander received new orders, the battle could already be over. Captain Seokjin commanded the carrier Indomitable, one of humanity's newest warships. Unlike Vorath vessels that operated alone, human carriers worked with support fleets, fighters, destroyers, supply ships, all coordinated through quantum links into a single fighting force. The Vorath Vanguard arrived at the edge of Earth's solar system, near the Kuiper Belt. 1,000 warships with 4,000 more following behind. They expected to face scattered defenses, primitive weapons, desperate resistance. Instead, they found Captain Seokjin waiting for them. The Indomitable released its fighter squadrons, 300 small craft that moved like a coordinated swarm. Pilot Sunwoo led the first wave, his targeting computer linked to every other fighter through the quantum network. They didn't just fight as individuals, they fought as a single organism, each pilot seeing what every other pilot saw, reacting instantly to changing conditions. The Vorath opened fire with their plasma cannons, but the human fighters moved in patterns that seemed impossible, dodging fire that should have hit them. The AI-assisted targeting systems predicted Vorath weapons fire before it happened, calculating trajectories and safe paths in microseconds. Break into attack formation, Sunwoo ordered. His squadron dove toward the nearest Vorath warship, firing railgun rounds at vulnerable points. The solid projectiles pierced the enemy hull, causing explosive decompression. Secondary explosions rippled across the massive ship. The Vorath tried to adapt, changing their formations, adjusting their tactics. But every change they made was countered instantly. Human commanders didn't need to wait for new orders. The quantum network allowed them to coordinate across the entire battlefield simultaneously. When one unit discovered a Vorath weakness, every unit knew about it immediately. It was a level of coordination the Vorath had never encountered. They were used to fighting enemies where communication took time, where orders had to flow through chains of command. Humanity fought like a hive mind, individual units making decisions while perfectly synchronized with the larger strategy. After 6 hours of battle, the Vorath Vanguard retreated. They had lost 200 ships. Captain Seokjin's fleet had lost 8. But the real surprise came when the Vorath tried to land ground forces on the colony world of New Busan. General Nari commanded the defense. She was a veteran of the Korean Unification Wars, a brilliant tactical mind who had spent decades studying military history. The Vorath warriors were fearsome, 3 meters tall, heavily armored, carrying weapons that could melt steel. They had conquered the ground forces of 847 species. They expected these small, fragile humans to break and run. Instead, they encountered human marines in powered armor. The armor made each marine stronger, faster, more resilient. Targeting systems gave them perfect accuracy. Energy shields deflected incoming fire. But the real advantage was training. Human soldiers had inherited thousands of years of military tradition, from ancient warriors to modern special forces. The Vorath fought with strength and intimidation. Humans fought with tactics and adaptability. When Vorath warriors charged in formation, human marines used cover and flanking maneuvers. When the Vorath used heavy weapons, humans responded with precision strikes. When the Vorath tried to intimidate with their size, humans targeted weak points in their armor with cold efficiency. General Nari watched from her command center as the battle unfolded. The Vorath were brave and powerful, but they fought the same way they had for millennia. Humans had studied every form of combat their species had ever developed. They knew 1,000 ways to fight, and they adapted constantly. "They're breaking," her tactical officer reported. "The Vorath ground forces are retreating to their landing ships," Nari nodded. It was the first time in recorded history that Vorath warriors had been defeated on the ground. She immediately had the battle footage transmitted across the galactic network, just like the new Jeju engagement. More species were watching now. Billions of beings across hundreds of conquered worlds, seeing the impossible happen again and again. The Vorath were losing. Scientist G1 made another crucial discovery. While analyzing captured Vorath communications, she found something extraordinary. The Empire was not as unified as it appeared. 23 conquered species were secretly communicating with each other, waiting for an opportunity to rebel. The Vorath maintained control through fear, but fear was fading. If the subject species see the Vorath as vulnerable, Jiwan explained to Commander Jihoon, the Empire could fracture. Rebellions could spread faster than the Vorath can suppress them. "Then we need to keep winning," Jihoon said. "Every victory we achieve encourages others to fight." Empress Dalveth received the casualty reports in growing disbelief. In 3 weeks of fighting, the Vorath had lost over 1,000 ships. Humanity had lost 42. How was this possible? How could primitives defeat her empire? Her advisors offered explanations. Human technology was more advanced than expected. Human coordination was unprecedented. Human fighters refused to break even when facing overwhelming odds. But none of these explanations satisfied the Empress. The truth was simpler and more terrifying. The Vorath had grown weak through 10,000 years of easy victories. They had forgotten how to fight a real war against a determined enemy. Humanity remembered. Captain Minho's reconnaissance ships reported that Vorath fleets were being pulled back from the front lines, not to regroup for another attack on Earth, but to respond to rebellions breaking out across the Empire. 3 conquered species had risen up, attacking Vorath installations, destroying supply lines, declaring their independence. Admiral Tajin saw the opportunity immediately. "We go on the offensive," he told his command staff. "Every Vorath fleet that leaves human space creates a vulnerability elsewhere. We help the rebels. We arm them, train them, support their fight for freedom." Engineer Yuna's weapons factories worked around the clock, producing not just human weapons but equipment designed for other species. Railguns scaled to different sizes, kinetic mines with simple controls. Technology that didn't require years of training to use effectively. Human ships began appearing in rebel-held systems, bringing weapons and supplies. Ambassador Young-ho made contact with resistance leaders offering Earth support. Not conquest, not domination, just help for those who wanted to be free. The message spread: humanity fights not just for themselves, but for everyone who suffers under tyranny. Within a month, 17 species across the Vorath Empire were in open rebellion. The invincible empire was fracturing. Empress Dalveth faced a choice: continue the assault on Earth or save her empire from collapse. She chose survival. All Vorath forces were recalled from human space. The siege of Earth was over.